Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 18, The Perfection of Renunciation. Text 51 to 53. Buddhya Vishuddhaya Yukto Trityatmanam Niyamacha Sabdadin Vyasmam Tvaktva Ragadvesho Vidusya Cha Vivikta Sevi Lagvasi Yata Vakaya Manasa Dhyana Yoga Paro Nityam Vairagyam Samupastritaha Ahankaram Balam Darpam Kamam Krodham Parigraham Vimuchya Nirmama Shanto Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate.
Being purified by his intelligence and controlling the mind with determination, giving up the objects of sense gratification, being freed from attachment and hatred, one who lives in a secluded place, who eats little, who controls his body, mind, and power of speech, who is always in trance, and who is detached, free from false ego, false strength, false pride, lust, anger, and acceptance of material things, free from false proprietorship, and peaceful. Such a person is certainly elevated to the position of self-realization.
Text 54. Brahma Bhuta Prashanatma Na Sochati Na Kamshati Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mat Bhaktim Labate Param.
One who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed toward every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me.
Text 55. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yaschashmi tattvataha tato mam tattvato nyatva vishate tad anantaram.
One can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God.
Text 56. Sarva karmani api sada kurvano madvyapasrayaha mad prasadat avapnoti sashvatam padam avyayam.
Though engaged in all kinds of activities, my pure devotee, under my protection, reaches the eternal and imperishable abode by my grace.
Text 57. Chetasa sarva karmani mai sanyasa matpara buddhi yogam upastritya matchita satatam bhava.
In all activities, just depend upon me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me.
Text 58. Matchitaha sarva durgani mat prasadat tarishyasi atha chetvam ahankaran nasroshyasi vinakyashasi.
If you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost.
Text 59. Yad ahankaram astritya na yoshna iti manyase mithyasa vyavasyasya te prakriti swam niyokshati shati.
If you do not act according to my direction and do not fight, then you will be falsely directed. By your nature, you will have to be engaged in warfare.
Text 60. Svabhava jena konteya nibadaha svena karmana kartum nechasi yanmohat karisyasi avsopi tat.
Under illusion, you are now declining to act according to my direction. But compelled by the work born of your own nature, you will act all the same, O son of Kunti.
Text 61. Ishvara sarva bhutanam vidideshe junatishti Brahmayan sarva bhutani yantrarudhani mayaya.
The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy.
Text 62. Tam eva sharanam gacha sarve bhavena bharata tat prasadat param shantim dhanam prapsyasi sashvatam.
O Scion of Bharata, surrender unto him utterly. By his grace, you will attain transcendental peace and the supreme and eternal abode.
Text 63. Iti te jnanam akyatam guhyad guhyataram maya vimsrayad aseshena yatechasi tatha kuru.
Thus I have explained to you knowledge still more confidential. Deliberate on this fully, and then do what you wish to do.
Text 64. Sarva guhyatamam guya Shrenu me paramam vacha Ishtosi me ritam iti Tato vakshyami te hitam.
Because you are my very dear friend, I am speaking to you my supreme instruction, the most confidential knowledge of all. Hear this from me, for it is for your benefit.
Text 65. Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyachi mam namaskuru mame vyasyasi satyam te pratichane priyosi me.
Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend.
Text 66. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam saranam vraja aham tvam sarva padebhyo mokshayishyami ma sucha.
Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear.
Text 67. Idam te natapaskaya navataya kadachana nachashrusave vachyam nachamam yo yasutyati.
This confidential knowledge may never be explained to those who are not austere or devoted or engaged in devotional service, nor to one who is envious of me.
Text 68. Ya idam param guhyam madbhaktesva abhi dasyati bhaktim mai param kritva mam me vyasyati asamsayaha.
For one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end, he will come back to me.
Text 69. No chatashman manusyashu ajin me priyakritamaha bhavita na cha me tasmad anya priyataro bhuvi.
There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear.
Text 70. Adhyashyate cha me imam Dharmyam samvadam avyoho jnana yagyena tenaham istasyam iti me matihi.
And I declare that he who studies this sacred conversation of ours worships me by his intelligence.
Text 71. Shradhavan anusyascha shinuyad apiyo naraha sopi mukta subalokan prapnuyat punya karmanam.
And one who listens with faith and without envy becomes free from sinful reactions and attains to the auspicious planets where the pious dwell.
Text 73. Kachit etakshutam partha Dvayakragrena chetasa Kachit ajnana samohaha pranastaste tananjaya.
O son of Pratha, O conqueror of wealth, have you heard this with an attentive mind? And are your ignorance and are your ignorance and illusions now dispelled?
Text 73. Arjuna uvacha nasto moha smriti labda tvat prasadan mayachita sthitosmi gata saneda karishye vachanam tava.
Arjuna said, My dear Krishna, O infallible one, my illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory by your mercy. I am now firm and free from doubt and am prepared to act according to your instructions.
Text 74. Sanjaya uvacha iti aham vasudevasya parthasya sa mahatmana samvadam imam ashrosam adbhutam roma harshanam.
Sanjaya said, Thus have I heard the conversation of two great souls, Krishna and Arjuna, and so wonderful is that message that my hair is standing on end.
Text 75. Vyasa prasadak shrutavan itad guhyam aham param yogam yogeshwarat krishnat shakshat at kathayata swayam.
By the mercy of Vyasa, I have heard these most confidential talks directly from the master of all mysticism, Krishna, who was speaking personally to Arjuna.
Text 76. Rajan samsmritya samvadam imam adbhutam keshavarjuno punyam hishyami sa muhur.
O king, as I repeatedly recall this wondrous and holy dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, I take pleasure, being thrilled at every moment.
Text 77. Pachat samsmrityu rupam ati adbhutam hare vishmayo me mahan rajan hishyami cha puna.
O king, as I remember the wonderful form of Lord Krishna, I am struck with wonder more and more, and I rejoice again and again.
Text 78. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishno, Yatra Partho Dhanurtaraha, Tatra Sri Vijayo Bhutir, Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama.
Wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. That is my opinion.
Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purpose to the 18th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of its conclusion, the perfection of renunciation. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much.
Pronunciations.
Hare Krishna, Yashvini Mataji. That was great, actually. It was wonderful. And thank you, Santosh Mataji. Your English translations was also very powerful.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna. So, dear devotees, today we will continue with chapter 18, text number 57 today. But we will start off by reciting the Mangala Charanam praise. You can also follow behind muted mics. Om Gyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmalitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Panchakalpaturubhyascha Kripasindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachadi Shatarine Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So dear devotees, thank you very much for dedicating your Sunday evening for coming together to read and discuss Bhagavad Gita. So today we continue with this final chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Perfection of Renunciation, and we shall be reading text number 57 today. Cetasa sarva karmani mahi sanyasa matparaha buddhi yogam upashritya matchita satatam bhava. Word for word synonyms. Cetasa, by intelligence. Sarva karmani, all kinds of activities. Mai, unto me. Sannyasa, giving up. Matparaha, under my protection. Buddhi yogam, devotional activities. Upashritya, taking shelter of. Matchita, in consciousness of me. Satatam, 24 hours a day. Bhava, just become. Translation by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. In all activities, just depend on me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. When one acts in Krishna consciousness, he does not act as the master of the world. Just like a servant, one should act fully under the direction of the Supreme Lord. A servant has no individual independence. He acts only on the order of the master. A servant acting on behalf of the Supreme Master is unaffected by profit and loss. He simply discharges his duty faithfully in terms of the order of the Lord. Now, one may argue that Arjuna was acting under the personal direction of Krishna. But when Krishna is not present, how should one act? If one acts according to the direction of Krishna in this book, as well as the guidance of the representative of Krishna, then the result will be the same. The Sanskrit word matparaha is very significant in this verse. It indicates that one has no goal in life save and except acting in Krishna consciousness, just to satisfy Krishna. And while working in that way, one should think of Krishna only. I have been appointed to discharge this particular duty by Krishna. While acting in such a way, one naturally has to think of Krishna. This is perfect Krishna consciousness. One should, however, note that after doing something whimsically, you should not offer the result to the Supreme Lord. That sort of duty is not in the devotional service of Krishna consciousness. One should act according to the order of Krishna. This is a very important point. That order of Krishna comes through disciplic succession from the bona fide spiritual master. Therefore, the spiritual master's order should be taken as the prime duty of life. If one gets a bona fide spiritual master and acts according to his direction, then one's perfection of life in Krishna consciousness is guaranteed. Such a beautiful purport. So the verse again, in all activities, just depend upon me and always work under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. So, in the previous verses, Krishna has been describing how a jnani progresses step by step by giving up the results of the work first, and then the work itself, and then attains liberation, sayujya mukti. Krishna will now explain how his devotee attains him. And this is actually considered the most important instructions. How a devotee attains Krishna. And this is the essence of the verses from 56 to 66. Its theme is pure bhakti, acting in Krishna consciousness. So this verse, how to act in Krishna consciousness. So there are a few important elements, and we shall try to discuss them. Actually, when you read this verse, in all activities, just depend upon Krishna and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. Sometimes we have some doubts whether we can act on this platform, but Srila Prabhupada, as always, gives a very easy to understand way. So, chetasa sarva karmani mai sanyasya mat paraha. Offer all your activities unto me and just depend on my protection, making me the goal of life. So that's the first aspect. Buddhi yogam upashritya, taking shelter of bhakti yoga with fixed intelligence. And lastly, matchita satatam bhava. Be always conscious of me while doing your actions. Bhava, with full consciousness. And this is actually the consciousness of a devotee. So if we ever want to come to the point where we consider ourselves devotees of Krishna, this is the standard. If we can look at this verse and says, yes, this is how my life is, then we can consider ourselves really Krishna conscious. Not to say we are not Krishna conscious, but we'll be really in pure Krishna consciousness. So it's very interesting how Srila Prabhupada starts off the purport. Prabhupada is essentially starting off the purport by saying, to follow this verse, we need a consciousness shift. And what is that consciousness shift? Prabhupada explains, when one acts in Krishna consciousness, he does not act as the master of the world. Just like a servant, one should act fully under the direction of the Supreme Lord. A servant has no individual independence. He acts only on the order of the Master. A servant acting on behalf of the Supreme Master is unaffected by profit and loss. So this is the consciousness shift. It's a shift from we are the Master to we are the servant of Krishna. And Prabhupada says, what does it mean that we are a servant of Krishna? It means we won't act in any way contrary to the instructions and the wishes of Krishna. And Prabhupada gives the example of a servant. When one is a servant, one acts fully under the direction of the Supreme Lord, Prabhupada says. A servant has no individual independence. He acts only on the order of the Master. Like a servant can't, during the day, decide he will do what he wants, what he fancies. Just, okay, I feel like doing this, now I'll do that. Even if it's some chore, he'll decide, oh, he'll cook the whole day's meal in the morning. And then at 6 o'clock at night, he'll vacuum the house. No, a servant has to act according to the wishes of the Master. If the Master likes this done first, that done second, that done third, that done fourth, to be done in this way, this is how I like it to be done. This is how I like you to cook. This is how I like you to clean. The servant is like that. Prabhupada says no independent existence. As the Master wants, fulfill the order. And a servant acting in such a way, Prabhupada says, is unaffected by profit and loss. When a devotee takes initiation, the spiritual master gives the devotee a name. Now your name is Krishna Das. Now your name is Madhavi Dasi. This is Das or Dasi at the end. As we've explained before, normally people think Das to mean servant. But a more concise translation of this word Das is actually slave. A servant, although has some apparent complete dedication, but still maybe at the end of the day, the servant goes home, does their own thing. But a slave is just 100% sold out to the master. He's the master's property. Now we all know that this whole word slave in Western or modern civilization, it has the connotation of exploitation, complete exploitation. But in the spiritual world, it's the opposite. As we say, the material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. In the material world, being a slave, that means completely sold out to the master. That is like the most abominable position to be. It's despicable. But in the spiritual world, being like that is considered to be the most wonderful, perfect position to be in. Because in such a situation, because Krishna is not like any other master. Actually, they said in the spiritual world, in one sense, the devotees, they enjoy more than Krishna. Just like when you serve Krishna, Krishna is feeling so much pleasure. But when Krishna feels that pleasure, he reflects so much of pleasure back on the devotee that in one sense, the devotee is actually enjoying more. That's why Krishna, at one stage, he was thinking what it is about the devotees. Why is it that they are so much in transcendental bliss being my servant? I want to find out for myself what is there. So therefore he came as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So to be in the consciousness of this verse, we must come into this consciousness. I am sold out to Krishna. My primary goal is to act in this life as Krishna wants me to act, as Krishna wants me to do. That is the first consciousness. Now, Prabhupada raises an interesting question. Okay, we all understand. Perfect devotion means simply acting under the order of Krishna, the instructions of Krishna, the desires of Krishna. Prabhupada writes, now one may argue that Arjuna was acting under the personal direction of Krishna. But when Krishna is not present, how should one act? That's a very relevant question. If the purpose is to always act according to the desires and instructions of Krishna, Arjuna on the battlefield, he could just ask Krishna, or Krishna would just instruct him. But when Krishna is not personally present, how would we know? Prabhupada answers the question. If one acts according to the direction of Krishna in this book, as well as the guidance of the representative of Krishna, then the result will be the same. So there's two things here. Krishna's instruction given in the Bhagavad Gita, and secondly, the instruction given by Krishna's representative. Actually, they are both synonymous. Because really speaking, it's very difficult for us to understand what Krishna's instruction is in the book. But when a pure representative of Krishna explains, this is what Krishna means. Oh, okay, now I understand. And that pure representative of Krishna, he is in direct connection with Krishna. So when he speaks, he explains Krishna's words, or she explains Krishna's words, then it is directly as Krishna is speaking. And Prabhupada says the instructions given by the representative of Krishna, the result will be same. So the spiritual master is the representative of Krishna, is the external manifestation of Krishna. So when the spiritual master gives a disciple an instruction, the disciple will take it that this instruction is exactly as Krishna wants it to come to me. And the disciple will follow it perfectly with full happiness. So that is the other important point. Now Prabhupada explains what is perfect Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada writes, it indicates that one has no goal in life save and except acting in Krishna consciousness just to satisfy Krishna. And while working in that way, one should think of Krishna only. I have been appointed to discharge this particular duty by Krishna. While acting in such a way, one naturally has to think of Krishna. This is perfect Krishna consciousness. So here Prabhupada is giving us again another very practical instruction. So every one of us, we have our daily lives. We have our daily activities from the time we get up to the time we go to sleep. Some of us have very strict routines in our life, and someone may be less strict, but we go through our lives. And Prabhupada is saying here, everyone is being directed by some goal in their life. Like some people may get up in the morning and their goal in life or the goal for the day is to become very healthy. So they go and have some nice, fresh juice, and then they do the exercise, and then they cook healthy food. So that's their goal. But the devotee, his goal is to satisfy Krishna. So from the time the devotee opens his eyes in the morning, immediately the devotee gets up, offers his respects to the spiritual master, offers his respects to Krishna, chants some verses glorifying Krishna, and then the devotee would go to take bath. And while taking bath, the Brahmin devotees, they chant different mantras, different names of Krishna. They think about Krishna, and then they come down, and then they'll offer their obeisances to the deity. They may offer some bhoga to the deity, and then they will start chanting japa, chanting the holy name of Krishna. And this japa is very satisfying to Krishna, very pleasing to Krishna. And after japa, they may cook something, and they're cooking in the consciousness for Krishna. So in this way, the whole day goes. The whole day goes, always thinking about Krishna. And Prabhupada says here, okay, I'll come back to that. One should not act whimsically. One should, however, note that after doing something whimsically, you should not offer the result to Krishna. That sort of duty is not in the devotional service of Krishna. One should act according to the order of Krishna. This is the very important point. That order of Krishna comes through disciplic succession from the bona fide spiritual master. Therefore, the spiritual master's order should be taken as the prime duty of life. Srila Rupa Goswami gives the definition of pure devotional service. Anya bilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavrita anukulyena Krishna anushilanam bhakti uttama. And he says this definition is broken up into Swarup Lakshana and Tatastha Lakshana. Swarup Lakshana means intrinsic qualities. And one of the intrinsic qualities is it has to be in a favorable mood, and it has to be as Krishna desires. Sometimes the mood can be favorable, but it's not what Krishna desires. Sometimes it may be what Krishna desires, but the mood is not favorable. So both have to be there. So this is an interesting extract from an interesting conversation between Bob Cohen, a Peace Corps worker, and Srila Prabhupada. And here they're talking about individual tastes. So Bob asked Srila Prabhupada, does the devotee who surrender keep his individual taste? Srila Prabhupada, yes, in full. Taste for different things. Srila Prabhupada, does he keep his individual likes and dislikes? Srila Prabhupada, yes, he keeps everything, but he gives preference to Krishna. Suppose I like this thing, but Krishna says, no, you cannot use it. Then I shall not use it, is for Krishna's sake. One common example is, I like cooking with onions and garlic. Krishna says, I don't like onions and garlic in my offering. Then the devotee will say, okay, Krishna, you don't like it, so I will not use it. Because what my duty is to make it for you. Nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchyate. Krishna says positively, I like these things. So we have to offer Krishna what he likes. And then we'll take prasadam. Krishna likes Radharani. Therefore, all the gopis, they are trying to push Radharani to Krishna. Krishna likes his gopi, all right, push him. That is Krishna consciousness, to satisfy the senses of Krishna, not to satisfy my senses. That is bhakti. That is called prema, love for Krishna. Krishna likes us, I must give him this. Therefore, in Krishna consciousness, there should be no envy, really. If we see some devotee who is very expert in serving Krishna in some particular way, we should never think, oh, I wish I could take that person's place. It's nice to follow in their footsteps, but we should say, yes, this devotee is so good in serving Krishna. Let me promote his service to Krishna. Because ultimately what our objective is, Krishna's pleasure. So how do we come to the stage? The stage described in this verse. Firstly, we must understand that it is a process. It's a progression. It's a progression of gradually increasing one's faith and one's surrender, and gradually removing the anarthas within one's heart. And this all happens by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. So this is a very nice extract from one lecture Srila Prabhupada gave in New York in 1966. And please listen very carefully. So it's such a wonderful explanation. So Prabhupada says, so our life should be formed that in our every activity there will be God consciousness. That is the technique of yogastha. You haven't got to separately being seated in meditation as yoga. Generally, as we understand. Now, how much you can devote your time to meditation. Suppose 1 hour in the morning or 1 hour in the evening you can devote. But if you mold your life in such a way that always 24 hours you are in meditation, that is the platform of yogastha kuru karmani. Prabhupada is saying here, people talk about meditation. There are many organizations that promote meditation. You get up in the morning for certain hours, you meditate. And then in the evening, you meditate. Prabhupada says, what is the benefit by meditating 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the evening? Why not meditate 24 hours a day? And Prabhupada is saying, this is bhakti yoga. What does yoga mean? Yoga means to connect. This English word yoga comes. Yoga, to connect. So bhakti yoga means 24 hours a day you are connected to Krishna, because in every activity we are doing, we are thinking about Krishna. And Prabhupada is saying here, I am earning for the Supreme Lord. Then when I earn, I bring things for cooking. I am thinking, oh, this thing will be cooked for our Lord. Now your wife cooks, and she's also very clean because it is being cooked for Lord Krishna. You see? Now, as far as I am concerned, I also cook myself my food and offer to Krishna. And therefore I ask my friends that unless it is offered to Krishna, you please do not take. So this is the most perfect yoga. Not 1 hour, not 2 hours, 24 hours, even in one's sleep. His Holiness Sachinandan Swami, he tells the story. When Srila Prabhupada came to Germany, he was there. And sometimes Prabhupada would take some rest during the day because he only slept for 2 hours in the night. So he would just take a little rest, maybe for half an hour. So one day, this Sachinandan, he wanted to see what happens to Prabhupada when he's sleeping. So he climbed up the balcony and he was looking through the window and he could see Prabhupada was sleeping. And as he was looking at Srila Prabhupada, he saw Prabhupada's lips was moving. He was chanting in his sleep, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. And he was so amazed, so amazed. And he was looking for a long while. And then suddenly, after a while, Prabhupada opened his one eye and looked at him, and he got a fright, and he went away. And Prabhupada said, if we become practiced, even in our sleep, we will be chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. I know some devotees do that. I've been sometimes with some devotees, even in their sleep, they are chanting. So 24 hours a day, when one is really Krishna conscious, one is absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. And Krishna says here in this verse, be fully conscious of me, bhava, with all of your intention, not automatic, not robotic devotional service. That is not the way. Not multitasking. We're doing puja, we're thinking of something else, we're working our daily routine, so many things going on, multitasking in the brain while we are doing devotional service. That is not the way. Krishna says, be fully conscious of me. Today I read a nice extract. Someone showed a quotation from Bhakti Rasamrita Swami. And I'll read to you what Maharaj wrote. If we are devoted, then we will be extremely responsible in everything we do. Even in the smallest service we do for Krishna, we will be responsible and careful. And when we are responsible, humble, and devoted, then Vaishnava relationships will become wonderful. And the great devotees, they are fully absorbed. They're in trance. Srila Prabhupada's servants, you will see they write about Srila Prabhupada. When he was taking his prasadam, he was not eating, he was in meditation. In deep meditation, every bite, he was feeling that this is Krishna's mercy. When Srila Prabhupada was cooking, it was not just putting some spices and all. It was a meditation, a deep meditation on Krishna. And in one letter, I'll just conclude with this. In one letter to Jai Pataka, in December 1972, Srila Prabhupada wrote, that is wanted if there is some discrepancy anywhere, some non-cooperation fighting, or if the work is slow or not to the standards, it is to be supposed that the person or persons in charge are not very much attached to Krishna. That means they will discriminate. My engagement is not good. Other engagement is good like that. They do not know the secret of surrendering to Krishna. Such surrendered devotees see that everything is part of Krishna's plan. That whatever is meant to be, I am doing that. So let me do it with my full attention to every detail. Let me become absorbed in such service. Never mind what it is, but let all other considerations be forgotten. And my only desire to do the thing best for Krishna's alone pleasure is my motive. This is advanced stage of understanding devotional service or Krishna consciousness. Thank you very much for coming to this point. So this is a very deep verse. It's a wonderful verse, a very relevant verse. We may sometimes feel discouraged and think, oh, I can't see myself coming to this stage. The only reason why is because we have unwanted things in our heart. And these unwanted things and the mind, distract us. Like if we're cooking for Krishna, we have all the good intention to focus our attention, but it goes somewhere else because of the anarthas. But as we become cleansed more and more of these anarthas, there'll come a point where there'll be no distractions. There'll be no distractions. We can just focus fully on Krishna. And that is the path of sadhana bhakti. We practice, practice, practice. And as we practice, anarthas keep going. And as the anarthas keep going, the more and more we'll be able to focus, fully conscious of Krishna when we serve. So we should never be discouraged. We will all get there one day. Hare Krishna, I'll stop here. If there's any questions or comments, I will take them. or reflections.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, sorry.
Hare Krishna, Nitai Mata.
No, let the Mataji ask the question. This is a comment only. It's okay. I can wait, Prabhu.
Oh, okay.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Puja Mataji.
When we don't have a spiritual guru,
Yes.
then obviously we have to follow the instructions of the Gita. Is that what is meant, what you're saying?
No, there's two considerations, Mataji. We have two types of guru. We have Shiksha Guru and we have Diksha Guru.
Yeah.
Okay. Srila Prabhupada is a Shiksha Guru for all devotees in ISKCON. Srila Prabhupada has explained Krishna's words in his books. Although we may not have a Diksha Guru yet, we have Srila Prabhupada Shiksha. So we not only have Lord Krishna's words, we also have our Param Guru, Srila Prabhupada's instructions. And then at some point in time, we may get a Diksha Guru, and then we get further instructions by the Diksha. Diksha means initiating Guru.
Yes.
You understand, Mataji?
Yes. Well explained.
Hare Krishna.
Pranam to you.
Yeah.
Nitai Mata.
Yes, Prabhu. This may not be relevant, but when you were saying my thought came like that, because it was only yesterday that it is nothing to do with the, maybe there are some resemblance. Duke of Edinburgh's funeral, like yesterday.
Yes.
I was just thinking when you said devoted, because everybody is speaking about him, his life just devoted to the Queen. He left the work, everything. It's like total dedication.
Yes.
Yeah. So when we were saying about total dedication, do whatever Krishna likes. So I really, it struck me with this. It is kind of that exactly like how he did for Queen. At least we can think.
Yes, actually, it's strange you would say that, Mataji. I was also thinking the same. He has such a profound sense of duty.
Yes.
Such a profound sense of duty. And he said, like, that duty,
yeah,
to serve the country. I was reading an article the day before yesterday. Someone asked the
he's a perfect Kshatriya.
Yeah, they asked the Duke of Edinburgh,
yeah.
So what was your life like? Was it fun?
Yeah.
And his response was, what fun? You just had to get on with it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. 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 So I felt his dedication, and even the walking 2 steps behind the Queen, that is also a part of his life, which he has to do. It's not 1 day, 2 days. It's not 1 year. How many? 70 years.
Yeah. And if you can draw some parallels to that. You could see by taking that humble position, by taking that position of duty.
Yeah.
Look how much he's being glorified now.
Yes. Yeah.
Look how much he's pleased the citizens of the country, how much he's pleased his family and so on. Yeah. So in the same way, that's a very sort of gross example.
Yeah.
Because, it's on the material platform.
Of course, yes. Yeah.
It gives us some idea of the sense of service, the sense of service and the sense of duty and the sense of doing what is required for the beloved, that is where the true sense of, joy and peace, happiness and fulfillment comes in life.
Yeah.
And when we do that for Krishna, the greatest master, then.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. This is what I felt. He just only just doing for the Queen. She's the Queen for this planet. That's it. Nowhere else. But if you do for the Lord, what glorification and how much Lord will be happy.
Yes.
I felt like that. So I thought to share that, Prabhu. Sorry.
Yes, that's nice, Mataji. Actually, it's coincidental that I was also having similar reflections when I was reading about, his life and his sense of duty. Thank you for sharing that.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Jali Mataji.
Yeah, I think I think I know my sense of duty, and I strive for that. But while you're serving Krishna, I mean, it's not fully 100% attention, because some other people in the family might interrupt and want your attention, because you can't have that. But you do have, you develop a good feel good factor by doing what you do, but you know in your heart is not 100%. How do you know Krishna is satisfied with your service?
Prabhupada,
I don't.
yeah, Srila Prabhupada gave a very simple way. He said, if you are following the instructions of Krishna as he's given in his words, if you are following the instructions of the spiritual master, if you are following the guidance of Krishna's devotees, and you do that with, Prabhupada uses the word humble and in full consciousness, you can be guaranteed. So that's one point. The second point I wanted to make is, like you brought up a very important and interesting point, that when we serve Krishna in a contemporary sense, we may be serving Krishna like in an office where there are other people who are not devotees, or we may be serving Krishna in a household, in a family where other people are not devotees, and we can't live a life, and neither does Krishna expect us to live a life where we ignore everyone around us, and we live in our own little bubble. So Prabhupada is explained that it becomes an internal process. And Prabhupada gave an interesting example. He said sometimes a wife, she may have a lover. And when she is working at home, constantly she's thinking about a lover. And the husband does not suspect anything, because she's so diligent, she's so aware, she's so much in her duty. But all the time, her mind is with a lover. So Prabhupada says, this is what devotion life becomes like. Obviously, it comes with practice and it takes time. But we can be doing anything. And everybody will be thinking, oh, he's just a perfect worker. He's just a perfect, wife or husband or child. He does everything. But they do not know the internal consciousness. So this is a devotee. A devotee is an expert that, everyone will feel that this devotee is so good. But internally, we have to develop our Krishna consciousness. And when our Krishna consciousness is developed very nicely internally, then this verse that we read today comes to bear to fruition very nicely. Is that something you can relate to, Jolly Mataji?
Hare Krishna, yes. But think, little practical things, like if you're preparing prasadam,
yes,
and the non-devotee comes and sort of want to touch it, and you know in your heart it's not a good thing and you're annoyed, but what do you do about it? As long as this kind of thing, and the cleanliness bit, and how even when you're doing it, it's not 100%. You touch something and you're aware of it, because I straight away I think, oh, that's wrong, that's not good, but it, as you say, if you have a good clean heart and you're doing, I'm sure Krishna would forgive you.
Yes, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And even in this, when you did something wrong and you say, oh, Krishna, I made a mistake here, that's still connecting with Krishna, isn't it? Because you're talking to Krishna. You are, you're still, through that act of saying, Krishna, I'm sorry, you are connecting with him.
Yes, I do agree. Yes, I do say, oh, Krishna. And I do apologize. I always say, You know, please
So that's
forgive me.
connecting with Krishna, even if it's apologizing, it's connecting to Krishna.
Yes, yes.
of
Hare
him.
Krishna. That's
Hare
really nice. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank
It
you.
did bug me for a long time, you know. That's that, and I'm so glad the opportunity came up to clarify it.
Hare Krishna. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Prabhuji, I'm just trying to clarify my understanding. So when
Yes.
Nitai Mataji mentioned the sense of duty,
Yes.
the sense of duty doesn't necessarily have love in it, does it? I mean, I think that's Vaidya Bhakti. Kind of, we're just following rituals and duty because we feel it's our duty. But we
Yes.
are aspiring for Raganuga, kind of that spontaneity in our
Yes.
service, isn't it? Is that correct understanding?
Yes, Mataji, that's a correct understanding. In the beginning, it is a sadhana bhakti means we follow the principles of bhakti, but the main driver there is the injunction of the scripture and the order of the guru. So we get up in the morning, we chant our rounds, we do everything daily, but we are not in this verse full consciousness of Krishna. It's more out of duty, right?
Yes.
But by sadhana bhakti, it removes the anarthas and it awakens the dormant love for Krishna.
Yes.
Sadhana will lead to rag
Mhm.
by definition, but it has to be done in the right consciousness. So you're right that duty means sadhana bhakti, and then
Yes.
then it's rag after that.
Then it's raga. Yeah.
Hare
I was just going to
Krishna.
say to Jolly Mataji, I was just going to say to Jolly Mataji that Jagannath ji used to come to eat Karma Bai's khichdi, and she used to make it while brushing her teeth.
Yeah.
And yet Jagannath ji didn't want the prasad that was made at the temple, but he would come and eat her khichdi because her devotion was so much. So
Yes.
Yes, I'm coming back to what your question said about doing your duty. I think when you say prescribed, I personally feel there's a difference when you say prescribed duty. It add that spirituality to it, that purity. So you don't feel, oh, I'm doing it just a matter of having to do it. It's a meaning to it. It's a feeling, and the emotion gets put in it. I don't know if that's the case, but that's how I feel when I say prescribed duty.
Yeah, it's prescribed duty. There definitely has to be some emotion.
Yes.
But the intensity of that emotion,
Yeah.
it develops with time.
Totally. And also Prabhupada didn't have all the facilities when he was preparing prasadam and things like that. It was basic little accommodation, but he made it clean and he made the best out of it. So we have to think of all that, you know, how do we make it good, whatever we've got?
Yes,
Yeah.
according to our circumstance.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other questions, comments, or reflections? All right, dear devotees, thank you so much for your participation. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva patitanam bhavebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Ananta Koti Vaishnava.
Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare
For a
Krishna,
wonderful
everybody.